So, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of attention. So, welcome to our, I would say, interesting session of applying global VC practices to Kazakhstan. So today we'll discuss, we have a very noble panel of speakers, and we'll discuss, what we can do to improve and boost the local VC ecosystem in Kazakhstan. So first of all, let me introduce the speakers. So Talgat Amanbayev, Chief Innovation Officer of AFC. So he'll be speaking of very interesting new products which will be interested to the VC market. Sabit Sahanov, so he is a member of Kaztech, which he will speak about, and also he's a founder of a very good robotics company. Yeah, then we have Adil Nurgozan. Everybody knows him. He's a VC evangelist, one of the oldest people who is in the industry, and also he's a managing partner of Big Sky Capital. Mr. Giovanni, the Deputy CEO for Innovations CBI Bank Dubai, so he came the long way to Kazakhstan to speak on this panel. And last but not least, Mr. Arif Babayev, who has given an incredible speech today at the breakfast, which I participated. So he will share his experience of how to do a successful startup in UK, London. So round of applause for our panelists, please. And of course, that's me, Aslan Sultanov, managing partner of Whitehill Capital. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Talgat, first question for you. So please tell us, what do you do? What changed? What are your strategies for AFC in terms of innovation? What new products would you implement this year? What can we expect from you?
Thank you, Aslan, for such brief introduction. My name is Talgat. I manage innovation stream at AFC. And basically, when you define innovation, there is a good definition that I looked up from Takeshi Toyoda. He said it stands for 3 I's, right? First, you imitate something, so you look up what's working well somewhere abroad. Second, you iterate on it, you try to make it better, you try to improve it or combine with something, and then you have the innovation. And this is the strategy that we're using here at the AFC to create innovation. And one of the things that I want to speak about today, applying to the VC market, is related to creative industries. We had 2 wonderful sessions yesterday about creative industries, how it's shaping up and how it's changing in a financial sector in Kazakhstan. Namely, we're seeing a lot of the movies being shot in Kazakhstan, right? If you go to a local cinema, you'll notice that more than half of them are made in Kazakhstan. Why this happens? Because the movie industry has created an infrastructure where you can invest in a movie, and then in a short lifespan of time, you can benefit or enjoy your revenue, right, as an investor in it. So, but what's lacking in the chain is how do you fund such projects? Traditionally, if you want to raise money, right, you would go to a financial institution, to a bank, or to an investor, and then you would pitch them your projects, and then they would give their KPIs in a certain way. They would limit your freedom, limit your creativity because of those KPIs, right? So introduction of one of the newer ways how you can raise funds is crowdfunding. Namely, crowdfunding is essentially a democratic way of raising money, right? You access directly your audience, you pitch your project, and people who want to back your project, who share your vision, who believe in your talent, they can back your project. And which gives you some freedom, but on the backside, there is a bigger risk, namely reputation-wise. If you fail, everybody will know that you have failed, right? And second, you kind of have to spend a lot of money on marketing. You have to know how to talk to people, how to convince them to invest in you. So at AFC, one of the projects that we want to launch is related to this creative industry. We want to create a platform for crowdfunding, which is different from traditional crowdfunding platforms that are existing, making it a fail-safe environment. So upfront, you're told that this is something new, right? This project may never make it to the cinema, might never make the desired check. So it is accepted. If you fail, the creative person on the creative side is not risking his reputation, or is not risking his money or his equity or anything like that, which I think will help us to allow, especially younger, the starting people in the creative industry, to raise funds. And we want to do it through a mobile app. We have the traditional app that's called Tabis. It's essentially a platform to access AX ETFs, but we want to add their feature to be able to invest in movies, in series, in songs. So any artist or any studio can rally a campaign, talk about their project, call for action, and invite backers, just like on Kickstarter, for example, to back their project. And I hope this is just one of the projects, right, that is related to VC that I think is going to help the industry. Yeah.
Thank you. So Talgat, so you're saying that our startups working in the creative industry, so basically they will soon, I guess, they will get another source of funding as a crowdfunding for movies and other creative, right?
Yes, but there is also innovation. That was on the tech side, right? But we're also working with our regulator, APSA. Yesterday we announced the new framework, which is called Creative Venture Studios Framework, which allows you to test out your ideas way before you create a company. So for example, if your MVP never sees the market, if you never raise enough money, if you see that your idea doesn't work on a scale, you don't have to bankrupt the company that you created. You don't have to, do all this cleanup stuff. So it's easy to fail early, easy to test the market early. So I think combination of legal innovation, the framework, and the technical innovation will allow startups, including IT, of course, also part of creative industry, to raise money easily, especially on newer ideas. Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. So my next question is for Sabit. By the way, this panel was organized jointly with AFC and Kazakh. So Sabit, I know that you have been working with Kazakh from the roots. It's basically an NGO. So, and also you're a businessman, you're a startup. So could you please tell me, what's the idea behind the Kazakh? I mean, there are lots of different NGOs that we have. What does it do? How would it help the local startups or VCs? What is it in that? Please.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники. Спасибо большое, Аслан. Да, я являюсь членом попечительского совета Альянса технологических компаний Kazakhstan, который был создан буквально недавно, оперирует он, может быть, не более месяца. Но для того, чтобы объяснить вообще, что это за организация, вообще причины ее создания, мне немножко надо погрузиться, да, в ту проблематику, которая и стала, скажем так, основной причиной этой инициативы. Ну, я чуть немножко позже поясню вообще о задачах. В первую очередь, если мы говорим о развитии технологического бизнеса в Казахстане, ну и как прямой клиент, да, венчурного финансирования, венчурных фондов в Казахстане, то тут надо, я бы назвал две такие узловые, скажем так, проблемы, да, технологического предпринимательства, ну и, наверное, венчурного финансирования в том числе. Знаете, если посмотреть на международную практику по венчурному финансированию, ну и вообще по развитию технологического бизнеса, то, по крайней мере, в развитых странах, то там можно наблюдать, я не беру в пример, конечно, там, США, это там совсем продвинутый уровень, например, там Канада, Европа, то там применяется комплексный подход к развитию, скажем так, стартапов, да, вдоль всего жизненного цикла стартапа. То есть, там, если условно разделить на 3 этапа, там, первый этап — это генерация идей, там, концепции, там, создание, там, скажем, уже продвинутых, не продвинутых, а, скажем, каких-то глубоких технологий, как идеи. Да? Второй этап — это уже, скажем, непосредственно формирование стартапа и, там, может быть, коммерциализация уже первая. И третье — это уже масштабирование. То если мы говорим о таких странах, как Германия, например, или там Канада, то на каждом этапе есть свой инструментарий со стороны там, правительства. То есть это я называю комплексным подходом, когда бизнес может там, поддерживаться как на начальной стадии развития, так и на конечной стадии, да, когда масштабируется. Но это и прямо влияет на венчурное финансирование, конечно. К сожалению, у нас нужно отметить, что есть, конечно, определенная фрагментация, да, фрагментарное развитие этого, скажем так, потока, да, развития инноваций. По генерации идей я там сильно уходить не буду, это уже, скажем так, там свои особенности есть. Но когда мы говорим о формировании стартапов и там первой коммерциализации, в Казахстане, конечно, есть хорошие профессиональные венчурные инвесторы, да, вот у нас Адиль, Аслан, мост, вы знаете. И слава богу, но рынок примерно венчурных инвестиций это на уровне 80-100 миллионов долларов, что сколько, в 5-6 раз меньше, чем там в странах Восточной Европы. Ну и уже не сравнивая там с США, например. Это о чем говорит? Это говорит о том, что здесь недостаточность венчурного финансирования в Казахстане, что нужно работать с источниками фондирования венчурных компаний. Да, если, например, не знаю, в западных странах там, 40% источников финансирования венчурных компаний там, может быть от государства идти, то в Казахстане, к сожалению, нет такого. Вот, и частные компании за счет частных источников реализуют проекты, но этого там, недостаточно. Да? Вот. Если говорить там, о следующих раундах финансирования, там, раунд A, там, B и так далее, то здесь в Казахстане совсем сложно с этим. То есть средств нету, можно сказать. Но, естественно, это влияет на, скажем, и венчурных капиталистов, и на стартапы, технологический бизнес в целом. Ну и вторая, наверное, узловая, скажем так, проблема – это, скажем так, развитие вообще в целом, то есть условия для развития бизнеса в Казахстане. Тут тоже очень много вопросов. Ну, например, вот Jusan Analytics делал хорошее исследование там, где-то в прошлом году и пришел к выводу, что у нас в Казахстане МСБ выживает там, на уровне 20-25%. Это стандартный МСБ. То есть не только технологически, а вообще в целом. Что, конечно, уступает там, 2-3 раза, чем там, в более развитых странах. Но, естественно, тем же инвесторам будет интереснее работать на тех рынках, где выживаемость бизнеса намного выше. Вот. МСБ, я уже не говорю о технологических стартапах, да, у них там свои проблемы, помимо там, традиционных. То есть в данном случае нужно говорить о том, что, к сожалению, малый и средний бизнес, а особенно инновационный бизнес, он работает в очень сложных условиях. И здесь надо обращать внимание там, со стороны правительства, то есть облегчать, улучшать условия. И это же является, скажем так, стимулом для венчурных компаний, фондов, потому что риски стартапов, боли стартапов – это боли венчурных фондов. Вот. Это было некоторое объяснение. Я теперь подхожу к тому, для чего был вообще создан альянс технологических компаний. Вы знаете, само технологическое предпринимательство – это, скажем так, его нужно отличать от вообще предпринимательства в целом. Вот, мои коллеги, наверное, больше подробнее расскажут. Я сам занимаюсь именно технологическим предпринимательством. Там, скажем, свои есть сложности, помимо тех обычных сложностей, которые испытывает там, МСБ. Вот. И это нужно понимать правительству, понимать на профессиональном уровне. То есть для этого, наверное, это был основной смысл создания альянса технологических компаний – помочь правительству глубже понять всю ту ситуацию, которая окружает технологический бизнес, технологические стартапы. Поэтому основная миссия альянса технологических компаний – это содействие, так скажем, экономическому росту, да, помощь в экономическом росте, но посредством точечной работы с технологическими компаниями, с их, скажем, проблемами, барьерами, которые сейчас существуют на рынке Казахстана. А их очень много. Вот. Поэтому в первую очередь вот одна из задач вот сейчас Альянса – это понять консолидированное мнение о том, что мешает развиваться технологическому бизнесу. Мы говорим больше о среднем сегменте компаний. Это сейчас предварительные там, критерии. Это компания должна, допустим, иметь оборот больше 300 миллионов тенге в год, иметь собственную технологию и заниматься развитием своей технологии.
Да. Я думаю, будет классно, Сабит, если мы сейчас еще соберем у других участников, то есть какие-то проблемы есть, и вы могли бы, наверное, на свою площадку, условно говоря, их консолидировать. Мне еще будет к вам пару вопросов.
Все, понял.
Спасибо. Да. So, Adil, I think Sabit has brought up a very good questions in terms of VC and other things. So basically VC, I think, is one of the most rapidly developing verticals within the private equity. So I know that the investments into the industry are like double digits every year, but still, I mean, you as a key ecosystem player, I mean, what's your opinion? What should be done? What's the ecosystem is lacking? What do you think?
Yeah, hello everyone. We've been observing the last 5 years actually a very good dynamic for development in different kind of niches. I've seen an active players, the government, many different ways, and agencies doing a lot of work in terms of providing the assistance and packaging and platforms to develop pre-seed and seed level startups. Now we are having an ecosystem, it's being formed already. And we've been able to attract some talent from the region as well. A lot of people coming from Uzbek or Kyrgyz or Tajik markets to come and try themselves out as founders. And we've been able to provide the pre-seed and seed funding as well. Now that brings us to the level when startups can pretty much test all their hypotheses, develop a product and start showing some revenue and traction. And probably grow all the way up to $1 million in revenue, but that's not enough. If we're talking about VC and we're talking about startups, we're talking about global business, we're talking about at least regional business. None of the markets existing and neighboring us is enough for any company to develop at the pace that we expect them to develop as a VC. So we need to be targeting all 85 million, including Caucasus and another adding 100, whatever. 100 million is a good market. So Central Asia plus Caucasus, this is the least requirement that we need to be putting in front of our startups. Local founders who are coming from the same background, which are somewhat homogeneous in terms of the languages and laws and regulations, etc. Now, if you want them to grow and you will demand them to grow 200, 300% annually, you need to be funding them because you need cash as a source of funding and you need fuel. Now, at this stage, this is the only problem that I'm seeing to build up the first wave of A and B round level startups, those who can and will and actually already investing and expanding into the neighboring countries. We have 24 companies invested here from our fund, Big Sky Capital. 10 of them are regional, and out of that 10, I say 8 are already operating in all the local markets, efficiently showing the traction, actually finding the product market fit and actually earning revenue. Funding is the main problem now. If you want to keep up the pace, and startups is about speed, it's not about dragging, it's not about anything. You make your mistakes fast, you change it fast, you pivot, you develop, and all things happening at the same time. You have to be showing growth, 300, 200%. Unless you're not doing that, there's no disruption, there is no threat from you, there is no speed enough, there is no scale, and we have to scale. So the main problem is funding. Now, there are many different examples that are somewhat relevant to us, and I think Europe might be one of them, but Europe is a highly regulated environment. And the development level and whatever, many different things we can probably borrow, but not relevant for us. I've been talking about it, I will continue talking about it. Southeast Asia is a case that we will need to be paying more attention. Not MENA, Southeast Asia. Why? I explain myself. So the structure of our economy, and actually many economies around us, is highly government-led, essentially taking 60% or 70% of the economy. And whether they want it or not, they have to be playing an active role in this space, which they have been, and I will be, and I think will continue doing so. Now, what we've been also observing that financial institutions are getting into the game, say in Malaysia, say Singapore, actually going through different kind of vehicles, either creating corporate venture funds, creating venture studios, and changing actually the regulations and requirements for pension funds, for other institutional investors, to insurance companies, to actually work it throughout their portfolio. Now, we've been talking to banks here, we've been talking to regulators, and we've presented our case in front of them, and we've seen it happening and working in Malaysia. Malaysia is the closest case we can get to this country. 3 years ago, the government initiated and enacted changes in regulations towards the pension funds, including the government-owned pension funds, which essentially allowed them to diversify in terms of alternative asset investments within the larger portfolio. It's very common practices. There is no news there. It's nothing new. But then they went from 0, whatever, 2% all the way down up until 5% in alternative assets. That includes, of course, PE. That includes private debt. That includes all other instruments, including rates and real estate. But then VC is included. Now, when you talk about it and you think about it, I'll give you one very clear example. There's EPF, the prominent, essentially it's our analogy of our EMPF, like the largest pension fund in Malaysia. $270 billion under management. Even them, they changed their internal regulations. They work closely with the regulator. Now they're allowed to invest in venture funds. They're not allowed to invest into startups, which is the right thing to do. They shouldn't be, because it's a pension. But then they're allowed to choose the GPs. They're allowed to attract those. They're allowed to put the money to the funds and allocate it and create a smaller version of their portfolio. Now, when you talk about $270 million under management, like 5%, even 1% is nothing. But then it's $270 million poured into a very early industry that actually makes changes. For this part of the world, a round is about $2 and $3 million approximately. This is the value that you usually seek when you're growing fast. By doing so, by actually allowing, say, a national bank could allow these changes to happen, it will bring a lot of cash to the market. When you look at the deposit base or a banking system or a financial system, it's a fraction, a 0, whatever percent, it doesn't even count. But for the industry that represents a high-tech and a more agile and faster development, et cetera, it's a lot of money still. So $3 million per startup will change everything. It will help us to expand. It will help us to grow our companies. It will help to bring these companies to profitability faster. It will help to bring like at least a dozen new names on the maps. Once they're there, they show the traction. They've already established themselves. And guess what? Our markets are a lot more homogeneous than anywhere in the world, actually. We speak the same language. Our regulation is the same, pretty much. We do have nuances, each and every country. We do have differences in social behavior, whatever. End of the day, it's very close markets. Very close. Many different ways. Close, a lot more closer than Thailand and, say, Indonesia, or Malaysia and Philippines. Those are different, completely different places, different people, different culture, different levels of development. That could give a chance for this part of the world to develop, I wouldn't say unicorns, but 100 million, 200, 500 million valuation startups, easy. You could see it within like 2-3 years difference. Nobody believed in what's happening now. All of a sudden, everyone is here trying to, play a game here or somehow to listen to this particular industry. Nobody ever believed this, especially bankers, institutions, all the traditional players. All of a sudden, they have to pay attention, and they will be paying attention because nothing else is growing. So there's only one problem, it's the funding. So now that's a solution that we need to think about. We do have a national welfare funds that are sitting there on cash. Some of them are not, but this cash is on the scale is nothing, like Samruk Kazana, for instance, or Baterek, or KDF, whatever, National Bank. There's so many players. Banks are super profitable in this country. They're not doing nothing. They're just taking it out by deposits, whatever, dividends. So there are a lot, there is cash available. And actually, we're not talking about a lot of cash. Like one forum here or whatever, a couple of forums will be costing like a fund sometimes. So I've been bringing up this question. I will be bringing up. I'll keep talking about the same stuff, but it's not a lot of money in the terms of, in scale of the country, in the regional terms. In any bank, just take any bank, you will see the contribution. And it's a fair game because you are in the game and you are in the capital. You're actually helping the company to develop. It's a very honest game. You're not taking any collateral. You're not trading the business, and et cetera, et cetera. So main problem is here. We need to be able to communicate as an industry to the larger players, to the institutionals, to see what can be done, to see what kind of funding can be allocated here, and explain that this is the instrument that, whether small or not, it still gives a contribution that is a lot more and bigger, and the impact is higher. It puts also the visibility in place, and gets us in the trends as well, make sure we are involved with the rest of the world, because the only industry in the world which is international, truly international, is VC, it's startups. There's nobody else doing anything like that. We only have mining, which is pretty much oil and gas, which is pretty much done to the extent. So,
So, Adil, I think it will be interesting to find out, I mean, how the way, I don't know, Gio from Dubai and maybe Arif from UK solve this problem. So, Adil has raised a very important question that the funding for Series A and above basically is a problem. There is, which will require, I guess, some challenging, which has some challenging solutions like changing the regulatory framework, other things, but at the same time, I hear some elegant solutions from Talgat, which like crowdfunding, this kind of things. So, Gio, I mean, taking into account that you work at DFC, right? You have, I would say, pretty much similar framework over there. I mean, what instruments are introduced there? I mean, how did you solve this problem? So if you could talk about that, thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you for that question. I love your confidence that you think we solved the problem. We have not solved that problem. I think the way we solve problems typically in where I'm from is we throw a lot of money at it, and we have a lot of money, and that kind of, addresses part of the problem. Before I get into that question, I want to agree with you. I think Southeast Asia is a much better reference map for this part of the world for many different reasons. I think Indonesia is potentially also a really interesting market if you see the interplay there between the private and government sector. I think the UAE, Middle East, I don't want to say MENA. MENA is like Europe. There's so many different countries and cultures and nuances. I'd say the GCC, right, which is effectively the big players in the GCC are Qatar, Saudi, and UAE. If you take that as a cluster, I think the thing that they've gotten done well is there's an abundance of money, right? There's a lot of funding right now. I would arguably say there's too much funding. And there is such a thing as too much funding, because when you have too much funding, you need to deploy. And when you have to deploy, you end up deploying into things that are probably not worthy or ready for that type of capital, which then in a way inflates the market and then ultimately crashes the market. It attracts a lot of, I would arguably say wrong players and actors, right? And so what I think that is happening now that is interesting for this part of the world is this. There is a big market where there's a lot of funds, and I would say the region that I represent now, is talent poor, right? We import talent, right? Any of the startups you find, most of them anyway, that have been very successful, we've imported. They came to the UAE or to Saudi because they were lured with good investments and grants and everything else, and then they effectively established a head office because that's a requirement that we do, and then you become a unicorn, and hey, we can say that we just have a unicorn, right? But we're still far away from actually growing our own unicorn organically. And I think having too much money is the flip side of that. On the other side, if you say that in this part of the world there is a need for funding, there's obviously a logical arbitrage interplay there. Now, how do you capitalize on that? Well, I think a lot of it comes down to this. I work with quite a few, I don't know how I ended up doing that, but I work with quite a few Kazakh founders and startups. Generally speaking, whether it's, by the way, Kazakh, Tajikistan, or actually any country, the number one thing, and I think, Talgat, I think you mentioned that at the beginning, the ability to tell a story is by far the most important thing that people need to be able to do. And it's by far the thing that I feel like founders don't really get a lot of coaching or programs on, right? But fundraising is really storytelling to a multitude of different audiences. And so you want to raise money in the UAE, you want to raise money in Saudi, having a good product, this is something I say all the time and it's surprising. Having a good product is not good enough, right? Having traction here in this market is really not good enough. You need to be able to tell the story in an appropriate and compelling way. You also need to be able to change your story to the context of the market and the audience that you're selling to. And so if you want to sell there, be aware of the regional nuances. Understand the specific nuances of the problem that you're able to solve. And maybe there's particular use cases that you hadn't even considered. But that's really important. The other thing is, for any of you who want to raise funding in the Middle East, GCC, consider this. The strategies of almost all the countries are to become the leading hub of innovation, right? There's only going to be so many leading global hubs of innovation. But that's the incentive. That's what they're looking for. So they're looking for founders and technical talent that can come in and propel the country by building companies that can scale and exit. We need exits, really. If you want to think about it from a VC perspective, the thing that we don't have is exits. We deploy a lot of capital, but if I ask my neighbor here to name more than 5 significant exits, there's none. right? And that's also a problem because you keep, it's called, I call it the SoftBank problem, right? Just throw a bunch of money at something, artificially increase the valuation, but until there's an actual exit, that's kind of meaningless. Side conversation, I don't know who saw the quote from Masaki where he said the other day that he likened himself to Jesus Christ. I don't know if you saw that. He got confronted with his underperforming portfolio, and anyway, I'm not going to bore you with that. But so look, long story short, Southeast Asia, great reference model. I think, like I said, Indonesia I would add to the list. I'd probably add maybe Philippines to the list. A couple of interesting things happening. If you're looking for funding, the GCC, we have a lot of funding right now. It's relatively easy to get funding. I just got back from Silicon Valley. The US is not deploying capital. Other than Ilya, the co-founder of OpenAI, who was able to raise $1 billion with an idea at a valuation of $5 billion for a company that's not even 30 days old. Other than that, you know, it's very, very difficult. And the reason for that is very simple. Interest rates, uncertainty on the new administration coming in, right? But at some point that's going to change. And that's kind of like why I'm here. At some point it's going to change, and people are going to go back to the US because it's still, for all intents and purposes, considered probably the mecca of, you know, VC and startups. And so I like coming here because what I see is three things. I see a great government with amazing digital capabilities and a very strong vision, more than a vision, an ability to execute. I see incredibly good educational system, and I see really hungry and talented founders that are building incredibly strong use cases, but often struggle to scale. They struggle to scale maybe because of funding, and I think they struggle to scale maybe because of the market size, unless you look at the broader region as an addressable market. So that would be my take on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gio. So I did hear like coaching, storytelling. I think that's one of the things Asana Hub is doing, like bringing very good accelerators like Google for Startups, etc. I mean, this is kind of small things you can do. My next question is for Arif, actually, a very magnificent story. I mean, you were able to build a successful startup in UK, which is, I would say, a highly competitive environment. So maybe from that point of view, maybe you see some, I would say, small, short-term things which could improve the current situation with funding. Can you please share your experience, especially as Talgat is sitting here from the regulator part, which can take it over? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the points Adil touched upon, I start from the end of the question, allocating a certain part of either pension funds money or a sovereign wealth fund, a tiny part, which will act as a GP to various VC funds, or PE funds, doesn't matter, will boost like a startup landscape dramatically. The banks need to, and I understand why they are a little bit shy doing that, because they don't have expertise in that sector, right? The biggest problem for the big bank would be, well, I mean, what is it actually? What are we investing in, right? Show me the KPI, show me the ratios. Well, the business doesn't exist, so how do we value it? How it will look at our balance sheet? But setting up an arm, and some of the shareholders of the bank, they do a separate, like a family office investments, I'm aware of that, but broadly speaking, this is not industrialized, right? And because we're certainly not a very large country, large by the size, but not by the population or the startup scene, in my opinion, that can be done with a very, very little effort in terms of the numbers, but the fruits from that can be really amazing. From my experience, and I travel a lot, in the region as well, I can tell you we are by far, in Central Asia and Caucasus, by far the most advanced in terms of the startup landscape. We have amazing success stories. We can talk about Kaspi, we can talk about Freedom, etc., etc. These stories are known in the West, right? I have a lot of friends in the PE and the VC world. Actually, they became friends during the fundraising bit, which was a painful process, and I can talk a little bit about it. You build a relationship, and then they call you and say, hey, can you introduce me to these guys in Kazakhstan? I want to just go and see. They're mostly always talking about public companies, because there are certain allocations, certain rules. They can invest in a public company which are listed either NASDAQ, LSE, etc. But no one from the West will come to Kazakhstan or any EM country now and say, here's $1 billion for you, can you please find me an investment? opportunities. So that's number one. Number two, so we effectively need to do it ourselves, just to be very clear, right? And we have enough money within the country to actually do that. There will be one-offs and amazing stories when the foreigners will come and invest, foreign GPs or foreign LPs, but the biggest problem is we need to industrialize that sector, and we can not only become a hub for the big startup innovation, you know, the startups which are going to be super successful and drive the technological shift and transition of our economy, but we can also become a hub for the investment vehicles, right? Which basically will invest regionally in Georgia, in Azerbaijan, in Uzbekistan, in Turkmenistan, the best country in the world to invest into, obviously, Kyrgyzstan and many other countries. But the opportunity is actually now, because the amount of talent we have, I can tell you, we have 450 people working in DNA, I think roughly, 60 of them work in Kazakhstan. And I can tell you that we had 100, it's just a very good number for you, we had 100 developers based in Kent in the UK. We sort of inherited it from one of the companies we bought. We currently have 12. All the R&D, and we grew like 10 times since then, so all the R&D is done mostly in Kazakhstan. And we use less people to do more. That shows you have a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent which are competitive, which can compete with basically the other developers in the sort of more mainstream countries. But we don't have a market which is big enough, right, for us to be successful. Therefore, what my colleague said before, you need to be regional. You have 100 million, right? If you talk about like a broader pan-Turkic idea of all the Turkic countries, we have 250 million, right? So you broadly, I'm including Turkey and some other countries, right? So this is somewhere where we can have a relatively easy tests, relatively inexpensive tests and trials, because that's how you do it, right? The startup is not a majority of them, they basically will die. Right? So startups, 90%, I don't want to give the exact statistics, but most of them are dying. Because with a great idea, you don't have enough coaching. How do you, what's your route to market? How do you win the customers? What's your MPV? What's the sequence of things you want to do, etc. It's a big chaos, right? So that's why VC can come with help of shaping things up, giving the expertise, apart from just money, right? That's on that front. In terms of the fundraising itself, it's an incredibly complex situation, because the way it works, incredibly complex journey. So the way it works is you go into the different type of the investors in different round, right? And if you just talk about the VC landscape, for example, they all have different things they look at. Some of the guys, they only look at, wow, we have an amazing VC and you're doing it in Kazakhstan, great, right? Our mandate from our LPs is only to invest in Kazakhstan. So first of all, you need to know who you talk to, right? That's like in sales, right? You need to understand, okay, these guys, they're a bank. They have an investment vehicle. They will be interested in the products which they can maybe utilize as a bank later on, or they have a situation where they will be sort of interested in something which can be B2B related or B2C related. So you know who you talk to. Second thing, look at be professional when you present. As in, there are basic things, and there are a lot of tutorials online, and I think what's happening in the Kazakhstan as well, I'm very proud of that. There are a lot of the coaching, it's not mainstream yet, but it's happening, right? And I've heard what Kastek is trying to do and other things. Mentoring and coaching is incredibly important. Learn the basic things. Why are you doing it? What's your market? How you present it? What's your KPIs? What's your MVP? And what's your plan? And a third thing is an exit. The exit is something where obviously the VCs will say, okay, we will sell it on somewhere. In the countries like ours, you will not sell it on to another PE, etc., because there are no PEs, right, to buy it. You can do an IPO and IFC, which is a great idea, or Freedom or Kaspi or whoever else will buy you here. But if you show the regional story, which may attract other investors. And it's a very clear path to profitability, very clear path to the double of triple-digit growth, right, over the years. And it's a product which is actually scalable, not only in Almaty, or it's scalable like across the region. The exit opportunities are tremendous. If you can quantify them, if you can qualify them and explain why you're doing it this way and who are your target buyers, that gives a lot of confidence to the investors, right? So, okay, the guys actually thinking about it, they know the market, they do this. This is where the mentoring can help. And another small thing, the team. You need to be able, because people do not invest into the ideas. Effectively, they invest into the teams, right? Everyone can have brilliant ideas, but if they, well, I look at the guys, they will not be able to execute it. Right? So why would you invest into a team which is unable to execute something? So to have a team, and be honest, it's fine if you don't have a good CFO. It's fine if you don't have if you just have a tech guys, you don't have a good sales guys, but you identify them. This is where if VC will see that the core is there, they will help you to, okay, we can headhunt this person from it. We know someone who can be a chairman going forward. We can help you with these development bits, etc. And it's a journey. It's a complex journey, but the education and learning about the journey is actually the first step in a journey.
Thank you very much, Raif. I think that's a really good insight. So I think we have time for Q&A session. So taking this opportunity, especially as Raif and Gio and Sabit and Talgat are here. So any questions? Please, we need the mic here. I feel like I'm a rap battle. This person is the mic. Please. Please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ivan. And first of all, thank you for sharing your thoughts on what's going on VC market. I think the whole audience fully agree that we kind of on the process of taking off the VC market here in Central Asia market. And the question from my side will be the following. What do you think needs to be done without any significant tectonic changes on the government side or any infrastructure side to help those companies on the round A or later stages to grow faster? And what kind of changes can be done to inspire VC early stages to sign them or send them a message that there will be exits? So, and also to Giovanni, I would love to ask you a question about your market. Your market is quite limited as well. What instruments, very practical instruments, can be done and can be, was the scaling in other regions could be an answer from your previous experience for Central Asia market as well? Thank you.
Man, that's a tough question. And I think you know that because, look, the problem is this, it's exactly as you said, we have the same problem, we have the same problem and we still have it because there's a reason why we talk about MENA, even though I told you earlier we shouldn't talk about MENA. The reason we talk about MENA is why? Because North Africa is probably a much bigger market, right, than the GCC if you consider the amount of people. So Egypt is a great market, everybody wants to go into it, massive market, and exits for us are a problem. They're still a problem because you know what you end up doing? You end up playing hot potato, right? Like sovereign wealth fund invests here and then another sovereign wealth fund has to buy it to generate an exit because there are no buyers, really. There are no IPOs, even though that's something that strategically in the region we're trying to push out a lot more. But you know, for an IPO, you also need to have public retail interest, which you cannot fake, right? And so it's really hard to build that. And so you said without any, like you said, tectonic. That's the word you use, right? Like, I can't answer that question. I think you need a significant step change. I will say this, in relation to what, you know, both the guys next to me have said about banks, and you asked, like, what could the government do? I don't know if it's the government, but I'll tell you the problem with banks, and I represent a bank. I'm a corporate VC for a bank, right? It's incentives. It always is incentives. Almost every problem everywhere is always misalignment of incentives. Why would I, as a bank, imagine the irony of me saying this, right? Why would I care about investing in startups with a significant downside in terms of there's not a guaranteed success. I can put 5% or 6% in a government bond. I could do a corporate loan and take a bunch of collateral, maybe get 8 or 9% guaranteed. My target is to hit $1 billion in revenue or profit. I can easily get that without ever touching a startup. So why on earth would I do that? You know the saying, nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM, right? That's the kind of thing. Doing the safe thing is easy. So unless you incentivize a bank, right, or anyone else for that matter, a pension fund, to take on additional risk, and if it's not monetary, maybe it can be regulatory. Maybe in the UAE, one of the things they're doing now is to say, here's the vision of the country, right? The royal family is very clear what they want. And so they're kind of forcing us to do things that go against our commercial interest, but are supportive of the national interest. But until you do that, nobody is going to do it just because it's good for the startup ecosystem, because they're not incentivized to think about what's good for the startup ecosystem. And they shouldn't be, because to my shareholders, I'm accountable for delivering shareholder returns, not growing the startup ecosystem. So unless I can kind of align these two, which I've sort of been able to do by focusing on companies and startups that actually help, increase banking capabilities, but unless I can do that, it doesn't really make sense for me to invest in a company that does, consumer products. It has nothing to do with me, except if I genuinely believe that the team is amazing and we're going to do 5x in the next 2 years. And if there's any company like that here, please come talk to me. I'm always open to that.
Yes, please.
If you are talking about the fundraising at stage A in Kazakhstan, yeah. This is one of the reasons why we established the technological alliance of technological companies. So the one of the goals is to involve good startups, technological entrepreneurs, and of course investors from different venture funds. So if you come to alliance, we can find more information and specifically provide kind of contacts, yeah, for you with the professional investors. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I'll also add, not many people know, but there is a great initiative from the Ministry of Digital Development. They opened 3 hubs, actually, one in the Silicon Valley, in Saudi Arabia, which we do, and another one in Singapore. So basically, the reason for these hubs is to bring, as you said, the companies which are pre-Series A to the region, help them soft land, invest, basically. And I mean, this is a kind of a small things which can be done like without this titanic, as you said, efforts. That's one thing, actually. So any other questions? Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Amir. Nice to meet you. I want just to say that environment must be friendly for startups. I think I know the experience of Georgia. They have signed like a startup friendly on any business, existing business, and they give a small amount discount for startups and help them to pay less for startups. Maybe on Kazakhstan we should also make this discount and to allow business to buy from startups, so as they protect maybe and care about startups.
And the question? Okay, like, no, okay. So I think this is kind of a tax for Kaztek, I guess, or something. Yeah, I think there was a question over there.
Yeah, my name is Daniel, Astra Mining. So the question is to maybe to Gio or Arif, that what's your preferences in investments, like as being VC or maybe because we are as a junior company and we have the sexy story like in solid minerals, but I see that here there's only like a tech adverse, like companies who is preferring to invest in tech sector, but we are as like from the natural resource sector, but not from oil and gas, which is almost done now, but with the solid minerals, as the Kazakhstan is a huge country and mostly like endowed with these resources, now we just to see that what's the like available resources maybe we can see on the VC funds, like on the VC side, and to see that what's the opportunities there for the investing. And definitely we have the story, as you say, we have the mineralization that says like we can pitch everything and the exit story is ready there because we have a lot of majors and a lot of the other companies who are interested to buy straight out from the resource base. But what the VC can look at it like in terms of the perspectives.
I'll try to take that one. So the VCs are mainly focused in tech, right? So they want to do something where it's most of the time balance sheet light, super techy, and something you can then scale. So in your case, if you have a particular technology which is like unique and innovative, there is a chance there are some specialized VC who may look at it. In your case, I would see this more as a PE play, and there are specialized private equity firms who actually work globally. And to be honest, in your case, it's easier to find them than in the tech because a majority of the resources, natural resources, are actually in emerging markets, right? So therefore, if in tech they don't want to go into the emerging markets because it's kind of risky, in the tech, there are smaller amounts of them, right, the quantity-wise, but there are some decent PE houses who are interested in investing in success stories. So your biggest problem would be is, do you want to sell control or not? If this PE comes in, they will want control because natural resources are non-jurisdiction. Well, jurisdiction with more political risks than, I don't know, United States, even though I can argue with that now. But something where you get to a point where you're ready to give up the control, that comes at the price. You will not control the board. You will not be able to determine when are you exiting. In a good case scenario, you may get a consent right. So either they cannot exit, you cannot drag you for the certain period of time, but they can drag you later. There will be certain KPIs which the board, i.e. like PE itself will give you, and if you fail, they will be able to fire you and change the management. They are unlikely to take your shareholding, that can be protected economically, but you will get to a point where you are entering a dangerous waters in a way, right? If you're talking about the short-term small amounts, it can be a strategic partnership with a strategic player. I don't know, Rio Tinto, etc. They do have a small hubs which basically invest with for the minority with an opportunity then to buy the whole things out if it proves. It's a territory which is interesting, and there are very specialized 4 or 5 big Ps who specialize in this. You also need a critical mass. If you're talking about 1 or 2 million, the big P, I don't know, let's say KKR. KKR will not bother investing 1 or 2 million in Kazakhstan because it's the same effort they make either they invest 200 or 2 million internally, right? So that doesn't make really sense, right? Unless it's an opportunity which grows 50x, right? And they see the potential, etc. So you need to find a sweet spot. You need to be sizable for them to invest, right? Or another thing, take a bridge financing and do the listing afterwards, because there are success stories with that on AIM, I think in London, and some other stock exchanges, where you take a bridge financing from a variety of vehicles for a certain period of time, do your JORC report, prove the reserves, prove the commercial viability of the project, do some growth and mining, and then basically sell it on AIM. So this is, in brief, how I see it.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? So I think I'll have a question from me. So Arif and Gio, taking into account that you work on your markets, I mean, can you advise, I mean, what verticals in terms of VC, I would say, have the higher chances to scale to that region? Or maybe it doesn't matter. What matters, as Arif said, the team, the concept. So what's your, I think this will be the last 2 questions for you. Thank you. Maybe for Gio and for Arif, yes, for you both.
All right, sorry, repeat the last part because my cap fell and I got completely
so the
distracted
question,
by the cap.
the question is the following: which VC verticals, like, I don't know, fintech, proptech, I don't know, have the highest chances to scale into specifically your region? And which, for example, like is a red ocean and doesn't make sense at least to go there? They should go to some other market.
That's a tough question. Look, I think right now, everything that has AI is still probably a hot market, full stop. Yeah, for another year or so. I think specific AI use cases, I think, okay, a couple of things that I think are interesting in the Middle East. One is if you look at some of the more structural problems and the sustainability, which is becoming a strategic capability, I think food security, water quality are really, really big topics right now. And any kind of companies that use AI and satellite footage or whatever else to increase that, vertical farming, I'm very fascinated with that right now. The other thing is, honestly, drones. Anyone who's doing really interesting things in drones, whether it's defense or logistics, or effectively defense, which then inevitably becomes logistics, right? Last mile delivery. I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff happening there. I think, companies that I really get excited about are companies who are solving the ability to have drone swarms, right? Which is kind of increasing the application of what you can do with drones. AI in general, I don't think we need another LLM. If I have to listen to another pitch of an LLM, I'll probably want to jump out the window. I think figure out what you can do with these LLMs, solve real problems. I think that's probably some of the things that we're looking at, because in medicine, in pharma, even still in fintech, I think there's a lot of things still that can be fixed. And there's probably a lot of things, even in all of our lives, that we deal with on a daily basis that are annoying us. And so, I figured out it's not so much the industry, it's really solve real problems for real people. As long as you do that, there's always going to be an appetite for it. But if you have to have AI and drones, those are my two big bets.
Thank you. Arif? From a non-sanctioned countries, okay.
Please, yes, please.
Good, so if there are no other questions, I think we need to wrap it up. So thank you very much once again for Kazakhstan, a bit, for co-sponsoring. So thank you very much for the panelists. So maybe a round of applause.
Еркіндік деген не? Сізге лайық жайлылық, жақындарыңызбен маңызды сәттерді өткізу мүмкіндігі. Ұмытылмас эмоциялар сыйлайтын сүйікті іспен айналысу. Маңызды жайттың толық бөлшегі болу. Freedom Broker сіздің шынайы еркіндікке алғашқы қадамыңыз.
Что такое свобода? Комфорт, который ты заслуживаешь. Возможность создавать важные моменты с близкими. Заниматься любимым делом, которое дарит незабываемые эмоции. И быть полноценной частью чего-то значимого. Freedom Broker. Ваш первый шаг к истинной свободе.
Запуск этого проекта придаст импульс развитию не только экономики данного региона, но и всего Казахстана.
Descendants of the Great Steppe founded modern Kazakhstan. This land has become home to many people who live in harmony with nature and the world around them. The country has been a reliable logistical hub of the Great Silk Road for hundreds of years. Today, the younger generation continues to develop the economy, technology, architecture, sports, and the arts. Visa strives to multiply these achievements by providing new opportunities for the citizens of Kazakhstan. Let us go back in time and remember the highlights of our collaboration. Visa started its activities in Kazakhstan in 1992. Since then, Visa has been incorporating new technologies into everyday life. Visa works 24/7 to be there for customers at all times. Supports women entrepreneurs by providing them with grants for business development, educational programs, and the opportunity to gain knowledge and experience from successful businesswomen. Together with the National Payment Corporation and our partners, Visa supported the launch of Kazakhstan's national digital currency, Digital Tenge. Visa enabled the launch of a first-of-its-kind card linked to the Digital Tenge, which combines advanced payment technologies with a familiar consumer experience. All this became possible thanks to the trust of every client and colleague in Kazakhstan. Together, we make this world better. Together with you. Together with Visa.
Біздің достығымыз уақыт сынағынан өтіп, 30 жыл ішінде нағыз гауһар тасқа айналды. Оның әрбір қыры біреудің бақытты сәттері, біреудің жетістігі немесе арманының жүзеге асуы, орындалған армандары. Біз Қазақстан тұрғындарының өміріне оң өзгерістер енгізіп отырғанымызға қуаныштымыз. Біздің клиенттермен қарым-қатынасымыз гауһар тасының беріктігі секілді ұзақ мерзімділікке, сенімділікке және тазалыққа негізделген. 30 жылдағы ең үлкен жетістігіміз қандай? Клиенттердің сенімі. Ол гауһар тастай өте қымбат.
Nowadays, ERG represents 1/3 of the mining and metallurgical complex of Kazakhstan. We are the only manufacturer of high-grade aluminum in Kazakhstan. ERG is the world leader in ferrochrome production. ERG is a major railway operator in Central Asia. We are one of the key suppliers of electrical power in Kazakhstan. It is one of the largest suppliers of iron ore in the Eurasian region. ERG has invested more than $14 billion in the development and modernization of enterprises in Kazakhstan. ERG allocated more than $1 billion into social projects. ERG employs more than 60,000 people. ERG paid more than 3.5 trillion tenges as tax contributions to the budget of Kazakhstan over 30 years, making over 2.5% of the country's GDP. Eurasian Resources Group, to be the best at what we do, to go forward along with the world progress holding true to our values, to discover carefully the potential of the earth and humanity, ensuring prosperity for those who rely on us.
Imagine a world where your assets trade 24/7 and settle and transfer at the speed of light. Equities, bonds, and other products can be issued as digital tokens with clearly defined rights and obligations, leveraging the best of traditional finance and digital asset technology. Bitfinex Securities is a fully regulated exchange licensed for both primary market issuances and secondary market trading. And in just a few days, Tether is launching a revolutionary new platform that bridges the gap between the physical and digital worlds, making it even easier for issuers on Bitfinex Securities to create and manage tokenized securities. You are now in a world where you can ensure the true value of your assets will be realized, with your tokens traded on markets used by some of the world's largest investors. Thanks to the vision of regulatory regimes in the AIFC, and now also El Salvador, issuers and investors can interact in a fully regulated and transparent environment. Regulation is meeting innovation. Bitfinex Securities allows issuers and investors to interact more directly, with no middleman, increasing efficiency and keeping costs down. Get ready for the next generation of capital markets, where possibilities are limitless. Tether, bridging the digital and physical worlds, one token at a time. Bitfinex Securities, a global marketplace for tokenized securities.
At MasterCard, we are focused on a world beyond. Beyond the card as we know it. Beyond payments as we know them. Beyond the digital divide. Because at MasterCard, we are focused on where the world is going next. Towards safer and even more secure digital transactions. Where contactless technology is within the reach of everyone. And money moves effortlessly, in real time across borders. Where buy now, pay later plans give people more choice and flexibility. And multiple payment options make new choices possible. Where fraud and security concerns are reduced and every transaction can be trusted. Where we leverage our technology leadership to develop digital-first, data-driven innovations and enable new networks beyond payments. And where people everywhere connect to the priceless possibilities in life. At MasterCard, we're creating this world right now. And we're creating this world not for a few, but for all. Because our focus, as always, is on improving people's lives, on working side by side with our partners to deliver game-changing capabilities, and on building one of the world's most admired brands. At MasterCard, we are focused on a world beyond and on all the people who live there, because that's a world that's truly priceless.